Captain Kim Tae walked slowly through the dark caves of planet Viridian Prime. His boots made soft sounds on the smooth stone floor. The light from his helmet cut through the darkness ahead of him. He had been walking for 3 hours now, and his team was getting worried. The mining job had started like any other. They came to this planet to dig for rare metals. The company said it would be easy work. Just drill some holes and take what they found. But nothing ever went as planned in space mining. 2 days ago, their big drilling machine hit something unexpected. Instead of solid rock, it broke through into empty space. A huge cave system opened up beneath their feet. The hole was too big to ignore, so someone had to go down and check it out. That someone was Tae. He volunteered because he was curious. Most miners just wanted to grab the metals and leave. But Tae liked to explore. He wanted to know what secrets this planet was hiding. The caves were strange. The walls sparkled with tiny crystals that gave off their own light. The air was warm and thick like breathing soup. His scanner kept making weird noises because of all the minerals around him. Sometimes it beeped fast, sometimes slow, sometimes not at all. As he went deeper into the cave system, the tunnels got bigger. The ceiling rose high above his head. Strange plants grew on the walls. They glowed with soft blue and green light. Tae had never seen anything like them before. He stopped to take pictures. The science teams back on Earth would want to study these plants. Maybe they could make new medicines from them. Or maybe they just looked pretty. Either way, his camera clicked and flashed as he recorded everything. The tunnel curved to the right, then left, then right again. Tae was careful to mark his path. Getting lost down here would be bad. Really bad. His oxygen tank had enough air for 6 hours, and he had already used 3. Then he heard something. It was very quiet at first. A soft sound like wind moving through the caves. But there was no wind down here. The air was still and heavy. Tae stopped walking and listened carefully. There it was again. Not wind, something else. Something that sounded almost like breathing. Very slow, very deep breathing. Tae felt his heart beat faster. He was supposed to be alone down here. The planet showed no signs of life when they scanned it from space. No cities, no heat signatures, no radio signals, nothing. But something was breathing in these caves. He moved forward more carefully now. His hand moved to the plasma pistol on his belt. It was not a big weapon, but it could stop most creatures. At least he hoped it could. The tunnel opened into a massive cave room. Tae stepped through the entrance and stopped. His mouth fell open. His light seemed very small in this huge space. The cave was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above him. Strange rock formations hung down like teeth. The glowing plants were everywhere, covering the walls like a living carpet. Their light made dancing shadows on the stone, and in the center of it all something impossible. A dragon. Tae had seen dragons in movies and games. Every human child knew what dragons looked like. But this was real. This was huge and terrible and beautiful all at the same time. The dragon lay on its side across the cave floor. It was longer than 3 space shuttles put together. Its scales were dark copper color, but they looked dull and cracked. Great wings spread out from its back, torn and bloodied. One wing had a hole big enough for Tae to walk through. But the worst part was the chains. Massive metal chains wrapped around the dragon's legs, neck, and body. The chains were attached to the cave walls with huge metal spikes. Each link in the chains was bigger than Tae's head. They glowed with a sick green light that hurt his eyes to look at. The dragon was not moving much. Its chest rose and fell very slowly. Each breath sounded like a storm wind. Its eyes were closed, but they flickered sometimes like it was having bad dreams. Tae stood very still for a long time. His brain could not process what he was seeing. Dragons were stories. Dragons were myths. Dragons were not real, but this one was definitely real, and it was dying. Even without being a doctor, Tae could see that much. The dragon's breathing was too slow and too shallow. Its scales had lost their shine. Dark blood had dried around its wounds. The chains seemed to be draining something from it, pulling away its life force. How long had it been here? How long had it been chained in this cave, slowly dying alone in the dark? Tae felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, though he should have been terrified. Not excitement, though this was the discovery of a lifetime. What he felt was sadness. Deep, aching sadness for this magnificent creature that someone had left to die. He took a step forward, then another. The dragon did not react. Its breathing continued, slow and painful. As he got closer, Tae could see more details. The dragon's scales were not just copper-colored. They had patterns in them, like artwork carved by a master craftsman. Its claws were black and sharp as swords. Its teeth, visible through slightly open jaws, were as long as Tay's arm. This was a creature of incredible power. Even dying and chained, it radiated strength and intelligence. What could have been strong enough to capture something like this? What could have been cruel enough to leave it here to die? The dragon's eyes opened. They were gold, pure bright gold like the heart of a star. And they were looking directly at Tay. For a moment, neither of them moved. Human and dragon stared at each other across the impossible space between their worlds. Tay felt like he was drowning in those golden eyes. They held intelligence, pain, and something else. Hope. Very slowly, the dragon's head lifted slightly off the cave floor. Its mouth opened and a sound came out. Not a roar or a growl. Something softer. Almost like a question, Tay found his voice. "Hello," he said quietly. "I am Tay. I am a human." The dragon's eyes focused on him more clearly. Another soft sound came from its throat. This time it sounded less like a question and more like a greeting. "Are you hurt?" Tay asked, knowing it was a stupid question. Of course it was hurt. The chains alone were proof of that, but the dragon seemed to understand. It made a low rumbling sound that could have been agreement. Its eyes moved to the chains around its neck, then back to Tay. Tay understood. The dragon was asking for help. He pulled out his communication device and pressed the emergency button. Within seconds, his team leader's voice crackled through the speaker. "Tay, where are you? Your signal disappeared an hour ago. We were getting ready to send a rescue team." "I am fine," Tay said, not taking his eyes off the dragon. "But I found something. Something big. Really big." "What kind of something?" Tay paused. How could he explain this? Who would believe him? "I found a dragon," he said finally. Silence from the radio. Then nervous laughter. "Very funny, Tay. What did you really find?" "I am serious," Tay said. "There is a dragon down here. A real dragon. It is chained up and dying." More silence. When his team leader spoke again, his voice was different. More careful. "Tay, are you feeling okay? Maybe the air down there is affecting your mind." "My air is fine," Tay said. "And my mind is fine. There is a dragon here. I am looking at it right now." He heard voices in the background. People talking fast in worried tones. Someone said something about hallucinations. Someone else mentioned rescue procedures. "Stay where you are," his team leader said. "We are coming down to get you." "No," Tay said quickly.
"Do not come down yet."
"First contact the orbital station. Tell them to send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we found something incredible." "Tay, you are scaring us. Come back up. We can talk about this." "I am not leaving," Tay said, surprising himself with his firmness. "This dragon needs help. I am going to help it." He turned off the radio before anyone could argue with him. The dragon had been listening to the whole conversation. Its golden eyes showed understanding, even though it probably could not speak human languages. It knew that Tay was choosing to stay, choosing to help instead of running away. The dragon's head lowered slightly, almost like a bow. A soft rumble came from its throat that sounded like gratitude. "You are welcome," Tay said softly. "Nobody should die alone." He walked closer to examine the chains. They were made of some kind of metal he had never seen before. Each link was covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when he was not looking directly at them. The green glow was stronger up close, and it made his skin feel cold. These were not ordinary chains. They were some kind of technology, maybe even magic if such things existed. They were designed to hold something incredibly powerful, and to slowly drain its life away. Tay pulled his tools from his belt. A plasma cutter, a molecular wrench, a sonic screwdriver. They seemed very small and simple compared to these ancient chains, but he had to try. As he began to examine the first chain link, the dragon watched him with those bright golden eyes. For the first time in what might have been centuries, someone was trying to set it free. The discovery that would change the galaxy forever had begun with one human who chose compassion over fear. And in the depths of space, sensors began to detect the energy fluctuations from the cave. Soon, ships from a dozen different species would be racing toward Viridian Prime. But for now, there was just Tay and the dragon alone in the glowing cave, beginning a friendship that would reshape the stars. 6 hours passed after Tay sent his emergency message to the orbital station. 6 hours of the galaxy slowly waking up to impossible news. In that time, everything changed. The first response came from Admiral Lee Hanna aboard the human fleet ship Morning Star. She was drinking coffee in her ready room when the priority message arrived. The words on her screen made her choke on her drink. Dragon discovered on Viridian Prime. Repeat living dragon found by mining team. Requesting immediate support. Hanna read the message 3 times. Then she called her communications officer. Get me a direct link to Earth Command, she ordered. Priority Alpha clearance. Yes, Admiral. Should I mention what the message is about? Tell them we found a dragon. A real one. The communications officer stared at her. Admiral, are you feeling all right? Just send the message. Within 2 hours, the news had spread across human space. Every military commander, every scientist, every government official was asking the same question. Was this real, or was Captain Kim Tae having some kind of breakdown in the caves? But then the orbital sensors confirmed it. Energy readings from the cave system showed something massive and alive down there. Something that gave off heat signatures unlike anything in their databases. The humans were not the only ones listening to radio transmissions. On the other side of the galaxy, the Corvan Empire intercepted the messages. General Crix was in his war room planning attacks on rebel colonies when his aide brought him the news. A dragon, you say? Crix's forearms moved in excitement. The Corvan were a warrior race, and they collected powerful weapons. How big is this creature? The energy reading suggests it is very large, General. Possibly 30 meters long? Crix's eyes glowed with hunger. Ready the 3rd battle fleet. We leave for Viridian Prime immediately. What are your orders regarding the humans, sir? If they cooperate, we will let them live. If they do not, Crix showed his sharp teeth in a smile. Dragons are too valuable to leave in weak human hands. The Altarian Council learned about the dragon from their spy networks. They were scientists first and warriors second. In their crystal towers, the council members gathered for an emergency meeting. This changes everything, said Counselor Vex, her blue skin shimmering with excitement. Dragons were thought to be myths. If one still lives, imagine what we could learn from it. The historical records speak of dragons as destroyers of worlds, warned Counselor Zane. Perhaps they died out for good reason. Or perhaps they were misunderstood. Vex replied. We must send our best research teams immediately. High Counselor Nexus made the final decision. Ready the science fleet, but send military escorts as well. If the humans have found a dragon, others will want to take it from them. The news traveled fast through the quantum communication networks. Within hours, every major power in the galaxy was preparing ships for Viridian Prime. The Zephyrian mystics, who could see across space and time, declared it a sign of great change coming. Their crystal ships began moving from the edge of known space, the ethereal collective. Beings of pure energy who rarely showed interest in physical matters suddenly appeared at the edges of 3 different star systems. Their intentions were unknown, but their presence meant the dragon was important to forces beyond understanding. Even the mysterious shadow traders, who dealt in secrets and forbidden knowledge, began whispering in dark corners about ancient prophecies coming true. Back on Viridian Prime, Tay knew nothing about the galactic response building above him. He was focused entirely on the dragon and the chains that bound it. He had been working for hours with his plasma cutter, trying to weaken just one link in the massive chains. The metal was incredibly strong. His cutter, which could slice through ship hull armor, barely scratched the surface. The dragon watched him work with patient golden eyes. Sometimes it made soft sounds, almost like it was encouraging him. Other times it rested, saving its strength for whatever might come. Tay's team had stopped trying to contact him after the first few attempts. They knew he would not come up until he was ready. But they were not idle. Mining Chief Park Jinwoo was coordinating with Admiral Hanna, sharing all the sensor data they had. The energy readings are off the charts, Jinwoo reported during a video call. Whatever is down there, it is definitely alive and very powerful. Any sign that Captain Kim is in danger? Hanna asked. No immediate threats detected. His vital signs are stable. He seems determined to stay down there. Hanna nodded. She understood Tay's choice, even if she worried about it. Keep monitoring. And prepare for company. I am reading at least 12 different fleets heading our way. 12 fleets? For one man and a dragon? You have never seen what different species will do for power, Chief. A living dragon represents more than just a discovery. It represents control over something the galaxy has never seen before. The first ships began arriving in the Viridian system before the day was over. The Corvan battle fleet came in fast and aggressive, their dark ships bristling with weapons. They took position close to the planet, making it clear they intended to land whether the humans liked it or not. The Altarian science vessels arrived more peacefully, but in greater numbers. Their white ships formed a defensive pattern around their research platforms. They were not looking for a fight, but they were ready for one. Admiral Hana watched the tactical display as more ships appeared every hour. Her small human fleet looked tiny compared to the alien armadas gathering in orbit. "Options?" she asked her tactical officer. Commander Song looked grim. "We are badly outnumbered, Admiral. If shooting starts, we will not last long." "Then we make sure shooting does not start," Hana decided. "Open channels to all fleet commanders. I want to talk." The first meeting took place on a neutral communication channel. Representatives from 6 different species appeared on Hana's main screen at once. The tension was immediate. General Crick spoke first, his voice harsh and demanding. "Humans, you have discovered something that belongs in stronger hands. We claim salvage rights to this dragon creature. The Altarian Council disputes this claim." Councillor Vex replied coolly. "We propose a joint scientific expedition to study the creature safely." "Study?" Crix laughed. "Dragons are weapons, not science projects. The Corvan Empire knows how to handle dangerous creatures." A new voice joined the conversation. It came from the Zephyrian fleet, but the speaker appeared to be made of flowing energy, rather than solid matter. "The dragon is not a thing to be claimed," the Zephyrian mystic said. "It is a being of great power and great age. It must be approached with respect, not greed." "Respect does not win wars," Crix growled. "Power wins wars. And that dragon represents more power than any single species should control." Admiral Hana had heard enough. "The dragon is on human territory discovered by human miners. We will decide how to proceed." "Human territory." Crix's laugh was ugly. "You mean the territory you will hold for exactly as long as we allow you to hold it." "That sounds like a threat." "General, it is a promise." The communication channel erupted in arguments as each species pressed their claims. The Altarians wanted to study the dragon. The Corvan wanted to capture it. The Zephyrians spoke in riddles about destiny and ancient powers. Smaller species tried to make deals and alliances. Through it all, Admiral Hana remained calm. She had served in the colonial fleet for 20 years. She had seen aliens make threats before. "Gentlemen, ladies, honored beings," she said when the arguing died down. "I propose a simple solution. We ask the dragon what it wants." Silence fell over the channel. "Ask the dragon?" Councillor Vex repeated. "You assume it can communicate?" "I assume it is intelligent," Hana replied. Historical records suggest dragons were not just animals. They were thinking beings with their own goals and desires. If we want to avoid a war over this creature, maybe we should find out what it thinks about being discovered. General Crix made a dismissive sound. "Dragons think about destroying civilizations. It is what they do." "According to who? The same historical records that said dragons were extinct?" The Zephyrian mystic spoke again. "The human shows wisdom. The dragon's voice should be heard before decisions are made." But even as they talked, more ships were arriving. The orbital space around Viridian Prime was becoming crowded with vessels from dozens of different worlds. Some came in peace, seeking knowledge. Others came ready for war, seeking power. And deep below the surface, Captain Kimte continued his patient work on the chains that held the galaxy's most dangerous secret prisoner. He had no idea that above him, the greatest powers in known space were preparing to fight over what he had found. All he knew was that a magnificent creature was suffering, and he was the only one trying to help. The dragon seemed to sense the growing tension in the space around the planet. Its golden eyes would sometimes look upward, as if it could see through stone and metal to the ships gathering overhead. When it looked at Tay, those eyes held gratitude. But they also held something else now. Warning. The dragon knew what was coming. It had seen species fight over power before, and it knew that soon, the small human who had shown it kindness might need protection more than it did. The galaxy was coming to Viridian Prime, and not all of it came in peace. While the alien fleets argued in orbit about who owned the dragon, Tay made a choice that would change galactic history. He decided to free the dying creature no matter what anyone else wanted. The plasma cutter had been working for 12 hours straight. The tool was getting hot in his hands and the power cells were running low. But finally he saw progress. One link in the massive chain around the dragon's front leg was starting to crack. The dragon had been watching him the entire time. Those golden eyes never left Tay's face. Sometimes the great creature would make soft rumbling sounds as if trying to encourage the small human who refused to give up. Almost there, Tay whispered to his new friend. Just a little more. The chain link glowed red-hot from the plasma cutter. Ancient symbols carved into the metal flickered and sparked. Whatever technology had made these chains, it was fighting back against Tay's efforts. Above ground, the situation was getting worse by the hour. More ships kept arriving from across the galaxy. The space around Viridian Prime looked like a parking lot for warships. Mining Chief Park Jinwoo stood in the command center watching the tactical display. Red dots filled the screen, each one representing a different species with different plans for the dragon below. Admiral Hana, he called over the communication link. We have a problem. The Corvin are moving their ships closer to the planet. I see them, Hana replied from her bridge. They are preparing to land troops whether we agree or not. What are your orders? Hana looked at her own tactical screen. Her 3 human ships were completely surrounded by alien vessels. If shooting started, her people would be the first to die. We protect our people, she said finally. And we protect Captain Kim. Whatever else happens, we do not abandon him. But the Corvin were not the only ones making moves. The Altarian science fleet had deployed research drones toward the planet surface. They claimed they only wanted to study the cave system, but their drones carried weapon systems. The Zephyrian ships remained at the edge of the system, watching everything with their strange energy sensors. They had not made any demands, but their presence made everyone nervous. Nobody knew what the Zephyrians could do when they really tried. Representative Yoon Minji had arrived on the fastest courier ship Earth Command could send. She was supposed to handle diplomatic relations, but there was not much diplomacy happening. She stood on the bridge of Admiral Hana's flagship, watching the alien fleets position themselves for conflict. They are all afraid, she observed. Afraid of what? Hana asked. Afraid of what the dragon represents. Dragons were supposed to be extinct. If one survived, what does that mean? Are there others? Are they hiding somewhere waiting to return? And what do you think? Minji looked down toward the planet where Tay was still working in the caves. I think we are about to find out. Deep underground, Tay felt the chain link crack completely. The sound was like thunder in the enclosed cave space. The dragon's entire body shuddered as the first binding broke free. Immediately, the dragon's color began to change. The dull copper scales grew brighter, shifting toward gold. The creature's breathing became stronger and deeper. Its golden eyes blazed with renewed life. The dragon lifted its head higher than it had in centuries. It looked at Tay with an expression that was clearly gratitude, then turned its attention to the remaining chains. I know, Tay said, understanding without words. We will get all of them off, but breaking the first chain had done something else. Energy readings from the cave system spiked dramatically. Every sensor in the system detected the power surge. On the Corvin flagship, General Crick slammed his fist on his command console. The dragon is awakening. We must act now before it becomes too strong to capture. Sir, the humans will resist any landing attempt. Then we remove the humans first. All ships prepare for orbital bombardment of the mining facility. But before the Corvin could fire, the Altarian fleet moved to block them. Counselor Vex appeared on the communication channels. General Crix, if you attack the humans, you attack us as well. The Altarian Council will not allow the destruction of such an important discovery. You would protect humans over your own species' interests. We protect knowledge over stupidity. If you destroy the cave system, we lose the chance to learn from the dragon. The standoff in orbit grew more tense. Weapons powered up on ships from 6 different species. The space around Viridian Prime crackled with energy shields and targeting systems. Admiral Hana watched it all happen and made her own decision. Open a channel to all mining personnel on the surface. The faces of 20 human miners appeared on her screen. They looked worried but determined. People, Hana said, I am not going to lie to you. The aliens up here want our dragon, and some of them are willing to fight for it. I can order you to evacuate, but that means abandoning Captain Kim. Mining Chief Jinwoo spoke for all of them. Admiral, we do not abandon our people. Kim is down there helping something that needs help. We stand with him. Engineer Han Suman nodded agreement. The Corvin want to come down here and take over? They can try, but they will have to go through us first. The other miners voiced their support. These were not soldiers, just working people who had come to dig for metals on a distant planet. But they had something the alien fleets did not understand. They had loyalty to each other. Then we make our stand, Hana decided. All ships' defensive positions around the mining facility. We hold until Captain Kim completes his mission. In the caves, Tay had moved to the second chain. This one was wrapped around the dragon's neck, and it pulsed with sickly green energy that made his eyes water to look at. The dragon seemed to be getting stronger as each minute passed. It watched Tay work with growing awareness and intelligence. Sometimes it would make sounds that were almost like words, as if it was trying to remember how to speak. The plasma cutter was overheating again. Tay had to stop every few minutes to let it cool down. Each break felt like forever when he could see how much the neck chain was hurting his new friend. "Hang on," he told the dragon. "Just hang on a little longer." The dragon responded with a sound that was definitely meant to be reassuring. It was telling Tay that it would wait, that it trusted him to finish the job. Above them, the first shots were fired. A Corvan patrol ship tried to land near the mining facility. The human defense systems opened fire, their small plasma cannons sparking against the alien ship's shields. The Corvan ship returned fire, blasting craters in the ground around the human buildings. The battle for Viridian Prime had begun. But in the caves, Tay heard none of it. He was focused entirely on his work. The second chain was fighting him harder than the first. The green energy around it grew brighter every time his cutter touched the metal. Then something unexpected happened. The dragon began to sing. It was not a song in any language Tay had ever heard. It was pure sound, rising and falling in patterns that seemed to come from the heart of the universe itself. The cave walls resonated with the music, and the glowing plants pulsed in rhythm. The green energy around the chain began to flicker and fade. Whatever power was keeping the binding strong, the dragon song was fighting back against it. "That is it," Tay said excitedly. "Keep singing." The plasma cutter bit deeper into the weakened chain. Sparks flew as ancient technology met human determination. The dragon's song grew stronger, filling the cave with harmonies that made Tay's bones vibrate. Outside, the battle was spreading. More Corvan ships were landing, and human miners were fighting them with construction equipment and mining tools. It was not a fair fight, but the humans were not giving up. Admiral Hana brought her ship closer to the planet, using its weapons to support the defenders on the ground. "All mining personnel fall back to defensible positions. We will cover you." But Engineer Suman had other ideas. She was driving a massive mining drill toward the largest Corvan landing ship. "If they want our planet, they can have it one piece at a time." The drill smashed into the alien ship's landing gear, sending the vessel sliding sideways across the rocky ground. Corvan soldiers scattered as their transport crashed into a pile of mining equipment. The sight of humans fighting so hard for each other impressed some of the watching aliens. Even General Crix paused in his attack to observe the small species that refused to surrender. "They fight well for such weak creatures," he admitted to his aide. "Should we increase the bombardment?" Crix considered. "No, I want to see what they do next. These humans are more interesting than I expected." In the caves, the second chain finally broke. The sound was even louder than the first, echoing through the entire tunnel system. The dragon's neck was free, and it lifted its great head to the cave ceiling for the first time in millennia. The singing stopped, but the silence that followed was full of power. The dragon looked at Tay with eyes that now blazed like twin suns. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect standard galactic, the common language used by all space-traveling species. "Thank you, small one. I had forgotten what kindness felt like." Tay almost dropped his plasma cutter. "You can talk? I can do many things when I am not chained like an animal." The dragon's voice was deep and warm, like distant thunder on a summer day. "What is your name, brave human?" "Kim Tay, I am a mining engineer." "Kim Tay," the dragon repeated as if testing the sound. "I am called Ryung. I have been prisoner in this place for 3,000 of your yeo." With the third chain broken, Ryung the dragon began to move in ways he had not moved for thousands of years. His great wings stretched slowly, testing muscles that had been locked in place by the magical bindings. Golden light seemed to flow through his scales like liquid fire. Tay stepped back to give the dragon more room. Even with most of the chains still on, Ryung was an incredible sight. His head reached nearly to the cave ceiling, and his eyes blazed with intelligence that was older than human civilization. "How do you feel?" Tay asked, wiping sweat from his face. The work was getting harder as each chain fought back more strongly. Like I'm remembering how to be alive, Ryung answered. His voice was getting stronger too, filling the cave with rich musical tones. But there are still 4 chains holding me. The last ones will be the most difficult. Tae looked at his plasma cutter. The tool was showing warning lights. It had been working far beyond its normal limits, and the power cells were almost empty. I have backup power cells in my pack, he said, kneeling to change the equipment. This might take a while longer. Time is something I have learned to be patient with, Ryung said gently. But I fear your friends above ground may not have as much time. As if to prove his point, the sound of explosions echoed down from the surface. The battle between the humans and the Corvin was getting worse. Above ground, Engineer Han Suman was leading a group of miners in a desperate fight against Corvin soldiers. The aliens had better weapons and armor, but the humans knew the mining facility better. Use the tunnels, Suman shouted to her team. They cannot follow us through the maintenance shafts. The miners disappeared into narrow passages that led between buildings. The Corvin soldiers tried to follow, but their armor was too bulky for the tight spaces. Mining Chief Jinwoo was coordinating the defense from the main control room. Through his windows he could see more Corvin ships landing. Each one brought fresh soldiers to the fight. Admiral Hana, he called over the radio. We cannot hold much longer. There are too many of them. Hold on, Chief. Help is coming. But Hana was not sure what help she could send. Her ships were outnumbered 20-1. If she brought them too close to the planet, the alien fleets would destroy them easily. Then something unexpected happened. A new voice came over the communication channel speaking in the formal language used for official galactic business. This is Counselor Vex of the Altarian Science Fleet. General Crix, you will cease your attack on the human facility immediately. You have no authority here, Counselor, Crix replied angrily. This is a military operation. This is a violation of the Galactic Non-Interference Treaty. The humans discovered the dragon first on their claimed territory. Your attack is unprovoked aggression. The humans are too weak to control such a powerful creature. We act for the safety of the galaxy. You act for your own greed, came another voice. This one belonged to the Zephyrian mystic, whose ship had been silent until now. The dragon stirs. Can you not feel its awakening? Your violence disturbs forces you do not understand. In the caves, Ryung suddenly lifted his head and looked upward with concern. Your people fight bravely, Kim Tae, but they suffer because of kindness they have shown to me. They fight because it is right, Tae said, working on the 4th chain. This one wrapped around the dragon's middle and it pulsed with angry red energy. Nobody should be chained like this. Many would disagree with you. Many believe that power like mine should be controlled, contained, used as a weapon. Tae paused in his work. What kind of power do you have? Ryung was quiet for a moment, considering how to answer. I am what your people might call a void dragon. We were once the guardians of space itself, keeping balance between the worlds of matter and energy. We could travel between dimensions, reshape reality, and yes, destroy planets if necessary. That sounds terrifying. It was never meant to be. We used our abilities to protect younger species, to stop wars before they consumed entire star systems. But fear is a powerful force, Kim Tae. Fear made the younger races band together against us. The 4th chain was resisting Tae's plasma cutter more than any of the others. Each time he cut into a link, the red energy would surge, and the metal would repair itself. I cannot get through this one, Tae said in frustration. Let me help, Ryung said. Place your hand on my neck. Tae hesitated. He was still a little afraid of the massive creature, despite their growing friendship. Trust me, Ryung said gently. I would never harm the one who has shown me such kindness. Tae reached out and placed his palm against the warm scales of Ryung's neck. Immediately he felt a strange tingling sensation flow up his arm. It was not painful, but it was definitely not normal. What is that? A small gift, Ryung explained. A connection between us that will let you share some of my strength. Now try the chain again. This time, when Tai used the plasma cutter, it bit through the red energy like it was nothing. The metal links parted easily and the 4th chain fell away with a crash that shook the entire cave. Ryung stretched his body fully for the first time in millennia. His scales blazed with golden light, and his eyes burned like stars. The very air around him seemed to shimmer with power. "Better," he said with satisfaction. "Much better." Above, ground. Every sensor in the system registered the massive energy release. On ships throughout the fleet, alarms began sounding. "Energy levels are off the charts," reported the sensor officer on Admiral Hana's ship. "Whatever is happening down there, it is big." General Crix received the same reports on his flagship. "The dragon grows stronger. We must capture it now before it becomes impossible to control." "Sir, the Altarian ships are blocking our bombardment vectors." "Then we go through them," Crix snarled. "All ships, prepare to fire on the science fleet." But before the Corvin could attack, the Zephyrian ship moved. It had been sitting quietly at the edge of the system, but now it flowed like liquid light between the opposing fleets. "Violence will not be permitted." The mystic's voice echoed across all channels. "The awakening has begun. Those who interfere with destiny will face consequences beyond their understanding." The Zephyrian ship began to glow with energy that made all the other vessels look like toys. Nobody knew exactly what the Zephyrians could do in a real fight, but nobody wanted to find out either. General Crix reluctantly held his fire, but his anger was growing by the minute. In the caves, Tay was working on the fifth chain. This one was wrapped around Ryung's left wing, and it glowed with a sickly yellow energy that hurt to look at directly. "This one is different," Tay observed. "It was designed to prevent flight," Ryung explained sadly. "Of all my abilities, they feared my wings the most. A dragon who cannot fly is only half a dragon." Tay worked carefully on this chain. He could see how much it meant to Ryung to have his wings free again. The dragon watched every cut with desperate hope. "Tell me about flying," Tay said as he worked. "What is it like to soar between the stars?" Ryung's eyes grew distant with memory. "Imagine swimming through an ocean of light, where every wave carries you to new worlds. Imagine dancing with comets and racing solar winds. Imagine seeing the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. It sounds beautiful. It was freedom in its purest form. And soon, if you succeed, I will know it again." The yellow energy around the wing chain began to flicker as Tay's enhanced plasma cutter carved through it, but this chain was fighting back harder than the others. Each cut seemed to cause Ryung pain. "Am I hurting you?" "The chains are connected to my life force," Ryung admitted. "Breaking them causes pain, but it is good pain. The pain of healing, not the pain of dying." With a final surge of power, the fifth chain shattered. Ryung's wing swept upward, stretching to its full span. The wing was enormous, easily 15 meters from tip to tip, and it glowed with its own inner light. The energy release from this chain was the strongest yet. Above ground, it knocked out several pieces of equipment and caused power fluctuations on ships throughout the system. "2 more chains," Tay said, looking at the remaining bindings. One wrapped around Ryung's right wing, and the final one circled his powerful tail. "2 more," Ryung agreed. "And then we shall see what the galaxy thinks of a free dragon." But their conversation was interrupted by the sound of human voices echoing down from the cave entrance. Someone was running through the tunnels, heading toward them. "Captain Kim," a familiar voice called. It was Mining Chief Jinwoo, and he sounded panicked. "Captain, you need to come up now. The Corvin are bringing down heavy weapons. They plan to blast through the cave system to get to the dragon." Tay looked at Ryung, torn between helping his friend and protecting his people. "Go," Ryung said quietly. "See to your people's safety. I will not leave you chained, and I will not let your friends die because of me." Ryung's voice was firm but kind. "The chains have held me for 3,000 years. They can hold me a little longer." Tay shook his head stubbornly. "No, we finish this now." He turned back to the 6th chain, working faster than ever. The plasma cutter blazed in his hands as he poured all his determination into freeing his friend. Above them, Jinwoo's voice grew closer. The mining chief was making his way through the tunnel system, trying to reach Tay before it was too late. And high above, in the space between the stars, General Crix made his final decision. All ships, target. The sixth chain around Ryung's right wing fought harder than all the others combined. It pulsed with white-hot energy that made the cave walls glow like daylight. Each time Tay's plasma cutter touched the metal, sparks flew in all directions and the air filled with the smell of burning ozone. "This chain is different," Tay said, pulling back as another wave of energy nearly burned his face. "It is the fear chain," Ryung explained, his voice heavy with old pain. "Made not just to bind my body, but to bind my spirit. It feeds on terror and grows stronger when others are afraid of me." Above them, Mining Chief Jinwoo had reached the outer edge of the main cave. He stopped at the entrance, staring in amazement at the massive dragon and the small human working to free it. "By all the stars," Jinwoo whispered. "It is real." "Chief," Tay called without looking away from his work. "What is the situation up there?" "Bad and getting worse. The Corvin are bringing down plasma cannons big enough to crack mountains. Admiral Hana says we have maybe 10 minutes before they start shooting." Ryung turned his great head toward Jinwoo. When he spoke, his voice was gentle and non-threatening. "Your friend risks much to help me, Chief Jinwoo. Few beings in this galaxy would show such courage." Jinwoo took a step back, overwhelmed by being spoken to directly by a creature from legend. "You can talk. I can do many things," Ryung said with what might have been a smile. "But right now the most important thing I can do is keep your people safe. How can you do that while you are still chained up?" "By making a choice I have not made in 3,000 years, Ryung replied. "By trusting someone completely." The dragon turned back to Tay, who was still working on the stubborn fear chain. "Kim Tay, I need you to stop what you're doing and listen to me carefully. But the chain can wait. Your people cannot." Ryung's golden eyes blazed with urgency. "I am going to give you something that no human has ever possessed. A gift that will bind us together across space and time." Tay finally stopped working and looked up at his friend. "What kind of gift?" "My blood. Dragon blood carries power, memory, and connection. If you accept it willingly, we will be bonded as brothers. You will share some of my strength and I will share your compassion." Jinwoo moved closer, his fear overcome by curiosity. "Is that safe?" "Nothing about dragons is entirely safe," Ryung admitted. "But Kim Tae has already proven he is willing to risk everything to help someone in need. This gift will give him the power to protect those he cares about." Above ground, the Corvin plasma cannons were being moved into position. General Crix stood on a hill overlooking the mining facility, watching his troops prepare for the final assault. "Target the main cave entrance," he ordered. "We will seal the dragon inside forever." But Admiral Hana was not giving up without a fight. Her small fleet had moved into low orbit, putting themselves between the Corvin ships and the planet's surface. "General Crix," she transmitted on an open channel. "If you fire on that cave, you fire through us first. Your ships cannot stop us, Admiral. Move aside or be destroyed." "We will not move." The standoff in space grew more tense by the second. The Altarian science ships joined the human vessels, forming a protective barrier around the planet. Even some of the smaller alien species moved their ships to support the humans. Counselor Vex explained their decision to her own people. "The humans show honor in protecting their friend. We will show honor in protecting them." But the Zephyrian ship remained at the edge of the system, watching and waiting. The mystic's voice came across all channels one more time. "The moment of choosing has arrived. What happens next will echo through eternity." In the cave, Ryung extended one great claw toward Tai. "Are you ready to receive my gift?" Tay looked at the sharp talon, easily as long as his forearm. He thought about his friends fighting above ground, about the aliens who wanted to capture or destroy Ryung, about the choice between safety and doing what was right. "What will happen to me?" "You will still be human," Ryung assured him. "But you will be a human with dragon strength, dragon sight, dragon courage. And no matter where you go in this galaxy, I will be able to find you and help you. And what happens to you, I gain something I lost long ago. Trust, friendship, a reason to use my power for protection instead of destruction." Tay extended his hand toward Ryung's claw. "Then I accept your gift." Ryung pricked Tay's palm gently with the tip of his talon. A single drop of golden blood fell from the dragon's claw onto Tay's skin. The moment it touched him, everything changed. Power flowed through Tay's body like liquid fire. His vision became incredibly sharp, allowing him to see details in the cave walls that he had never noticed before. His hearing became so sensitive that he could detect the heartbeats of his friends far above ground. But more than physical changes, Tay felt an emotional connection form with Ryung. He could sense the dragon's thoughts and feelings as clearly as his own. 3,000 years of loneliness, pain, and slowly dying hope flowed into his mind, but also wisdom, kindness, and a deep love for all living things. "I feel everything you felt," Tay whispered in amazement. "And I feel your determination to protect others, no matter the cost to yourself," Ryung replied. "We are bonded now, Kim Tay. Dragon and human, ancient and young, working together." The bonding had another effect. The white energy around the fear chain began to flicker and fade. Whatever power had been feeding off terror was being weakened by the trust and friendship between human and dragon. "Now," Ryung said with renewed strength, "let us finish what we started." This time, when Tay used his plasma cutter on the fear chain, it cut through the metal like soft butter. The enhanced strength from Ryung's gift made the tool far more effective. Within minutes, the sixth chain shattered completely. Ryung spread both wings to their full span, nearly 50 meters from tip to tip. The cave filled with golden light as power flowed back into the dragon's body. For the first time in millennia, he looked truly alive and truly free. Only one chain remained. The final binding wrapped around Ryung's powerful tail, glowing with deep purple energy that seemed to pull light into itself rather than give it off. "The soul chain," Ryung said grimly. "The cruelest of all the bindings. It was designed to slowly drain my life force until nothing remained but an empty shell." Tay could feel Ryung's weakness through their new connection. Despite his growing strength, the dragon was still dying. The soul chain was a poison that had been working for 3,000 years. "We have to get it off now," Tay said urgently. But before they could begin work on the final chain, the cave shook with a massive explosion from above. Dust and rocks fell from the ceiling as the Corvin plasma cannons opened fire on the mountain. "They are trying to seal us in," Jinwoo shouted over the noise. Another explosion, closer this time. The tunnel entrance began to collapse as tons of rock shifted above them. "We are trapped," Jinwoo said in despair. But Ryung was no longer the weak, dying creature they had found. With 6 chains broken and his bond with Tay complete, he was becoming something the galaxy had not seen for 3,000 years, a fully awakened void dragon. "No," Ryung said, his voice echoing with power that made the cave walls vibrate. "We are not trapped. We are simply ready to introduce ourselves properly." He turned to Tay with eyes that blazed like twin suns. "My friend, are you prepared to see what a dragon can do when he chooses to protect instead of destroy?" Above them, General Crix was ordering his cannons to fire faster. "Bring down the whole mountain if you have to. Nothing must escape from those caves, but deep underground, something was stirring that would make his weapons look like toys." The last chain was about to break, and when it did, the galaxy would learn that some forces were too powerful to be contained by fear and too important to be controlled by greed. Ryung was almost free, and he had a human friend to protect. That combination was about to change everything. The cave shook again as another plasma blast hit the mountain above them. Rocks crashed down from the ceiling and the air filled with dust. But Tay barely noticed. All his attention was focused on the final chain wrapped around Ryung's tail. This chain was different from all the others. The purple energy around it seemed to eat light, making the area around Ryung's tail darker even when Tai shined his helmet light directly on it. "The soul chain is the strongest," Ryung warned. "It has been feeding on my life force for 3,000 years. Breaking it will not be easy." "We have come this far," Tay said, checking his plasma cutter one more time. "We will finish this." Through their new bond, Tay could feel Ryung's pain more clearly than ever. The soul chain was like a constant weight pressing down on the dragon's spirit, slowly crushing his will to live. It was a cruel weapon designed not just to imprison but to torture. Above ground, the battle was reaching its peak. The Corvin plasma cannons had started a landslide that was burying the cave entrance under tons of rock. General Crix watched with satisfaction as his weapons pounded the mountainside. "No one will ever find the dragon now," he told his officers. "It will die buried in that hole and the galaxy will be safer." But Admiral Hanna was not ready to give up. "All ships concentrate fire on the Corvin ground positions. We have to stop them from sealing our people inside." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Their weapons were smaller than the alien ships, but they were accurate. Plasma bolts struck the Corvin cannons, sending soldiers scrambling for cover. "The humans attack us," one of Crix's officers reported. They are trying to protect the dragon. Then we destroy the humans too, Crix snarled. All fleet units target the human ships. The space battle that had been building for hours finally exploded into violence. Corvan warships fired on the human fleet while Altarian science vessels tried to get between them. Energy bolts and missile trails lit up the darkness around Viridian Prime. But the Zephyrian ship was still watching from the edge of the system. The Mystic's voice cut through all the battle communications with words that made everyone pause. It is too late. The awakening cannot be stopped. The last chain breaks now. In the cave, Tay had been working on the soul chain for 20 minutes. His enhanced plasma cutter, powered by the connection to Ryung, was slowly eating through the dark metal. But each cut seemed to cause the dragon terrible pain. I am hurting you, Tay said, stopping his work. The pain means the chain is weakening, Ryung replied through gritted teeth. Do not stop now, my friend. We are almost there. Mining Chief Jinwoo had found a safe spot behind a large rock formation. He watched in amazement as the small human worked to free the enormous dragon. This is the craziest thing I have ever seen, he muttered. And also the most wonderful. The purple energy around the chain began to flicker as Tay's cutter carved deeper into the metal. Ancient symbols carved into each link started to spark and fade. Whatever technology had created these bindings was finally losing its power. Tell me about your people, Tay said as he worked, trying to keep Ryung's mind off the pain. Were there many void dragons? Once we numbered in the hundreds, Ryung replied, his voice strained but steady. We were guardians of the balance between dimensions. We prevented wars that would have torn apart reality itself. We protected younger species from forces they could not understand. What happened to the others? Fear happened. The younger races grew strong enough to challenge us but not wise enough to understand us. They saw our power and assumed we would use it to conquer them. So they struck first. Tay could feel the sadness in Ryung's memories through their bond. The dragon had lost not just his freedom but his entire family and way of life. I am sorry, Tay said quietly. Do not be sorry for them, Ryung replied. Be proud of yourself. You have shown that not all younger races are ruled by fear. Some are ruled by compassion. The final cut broke through the soul chain with a sound like reality tearing apart. The purple energy exploded outward in all directions, then vanished completely. The chain fell away from Ryung's tail with a crash that echoed through the entire cave system. For a moment, nothing happened. Ryung lay still, as if he could not believe he was finally free. Then power began to flow back into his body like a golden tide. The dragon rose to his full height for the first time in millennia. His scales blazed with inner fire, shifting from dull copper to brilliant gold to something beyond gold that had no name. His eyes became like twin stars, bright enough to illuminate the entire cave. Wings that spanned 50 meters spread wide, and energy crackled between the wing tips. When Ryung spoke, his voice carried harmonics that made the cave walls sing in response. I am free, he said, and those 3 words carried the weight of 3,000 years of captivity finally ended. But their celebration was interrupted by another massive explosion from above. This one was strong enough to crack the cave walls and send huge boulders crashing down around them. The mountain is collapsing, Jinwoo shouted. We have to get out of here. There is nowhere to go, Tay replied, looking at the blocked tunnel entrance. We are trapped. Ryung turned his great head toward them, and his expression was gentle despite his terrifying appearance. My friends, you have given me the greatest gift possible. Now let me give you a gift in return. What do you mean? I mean it is time for the galaxy to remember what a free dragon can do. Ryung gathered his power, drawing on abilities he had not used for 3,000 years. The air around him began to shimmer and bend as he reached into dimensions that existed beyond normal space. Hold on to me, he instructed Tay and Jinwoo, and do not be afraid of what you see. The 2 humans grabbed onto Ryung's scales just as the dragon folded reality around them like a piece of paper. The cave, the mountain, the entire planet seemed to twist and turn inside out. Then they were somewhere else entirely. They stood on the surface of Viridian Prime, but not where the caves had been. They were on a hill several kilometers away, looking down at the mining facility where the battle was still raging. How did we get here? Jinwoo asked in amazement. Dimensional travel, Ryung explained casually, one of the simpler dragon abilities. I thought we should have a better view of what happens next. In the space above them, the battle between the fleets was reaching its climax. The Corvan ships were pressing their attack on the humans when every sensor in the system suddenly went crazy. Energy spike, reported the sensor officer on Admiral Hana's ship. Something just appeared on the planet's surface. Something big. How big? Big enough to have its own gravitational field. General Crix received similar reports on his flagship. What is that thing? Unknown, sir. But it is where the caves used to be. Through the viewports of their ships, every being in the fleet could see the same thing. A golden light was rising from the planet's surface, growing brighter by the second. It was not the light of any star or weapon they had ever seen. It was the light of a fully awakened void dragon. Ryung spread his wings wide and lifted off from the hilltop where he had brought his friends. His massive form rose into the sky like a living constellation, visible from space even without telescopes. People of the galaxy. His voice somehow reached every ship in the system at once, speaking in perfect translation to each species. I am Ryung, last of the Void Dragons. For 3,000 years I have been your prisoner. Today I am free. Panic spread through the alien fleets. Weapons powered up and shields activated as captains tried to decide whether to flee or fight. But I do not come to you in anger, Ryung continued, his voice carrying across space itself. I come to you in gratitude. For I have learned something in my long captivity. I have learned that not all young species are driven by fear. The dragon's golden form hovered between the planet and the fleets, his presence making every piece of technology in the system resonate with harmonious energy. One human showed me kindness when kindness seemed impossible. One human chose compassion over fear, mercy over safety. Because of Kim Tae, I remember what it means to protect instead of destroy. On Admiral Hana's ship, officers stared in amazement at their screens. The energy readings from the dragon were beyond anything they had ever recorded. Admiral, her tactical officer whispered, that creature could destroy our entire fleet with a thought. But it is not going to, Hana realized. It is protecting us. General Crix was not so understanding. All ships open fire on the dragon. Destroy it before it destroys us. But when the Corvin weapons fired, something incredible happened. The energy bolts simply vanished before they could reach Ryung. The dragon absorbed the attacks like a sponge soaking up water. Your weapons cannot harm me, Ryung said calmly. But I do not wish to harm you either. I wish only to live in peace and to protect those who have shown me friendship. The dragon turned his great head toward the human fleet. And when he spoke again, his voice was warm with affection. Admiral Lee Hana, Captain Kim Tae tells me that you and your people fought to protect him while he worked to free me. This kindness will not be forgotten. Hana found her voice somehow. Honored Ryung, we seek no reward for doing what was right, the Impelos. And that is exactly why you will receive one, Ryung replied. From this day forward, humanity has the protection of the last void dragon. Any who threaten you, threaten me. Any who attack you, attack me. 1 year later, Viridian Prime had become the most important planet in the galaxy. Where once there had been only a small mining operation, now stood a magnificent city built around the hill where Ryung first revealed himself to the galaxy. The Dragon Peace Center, as it came to be known, hosted delegates from every known species. Scientists came to learn from Ryung's ancient wisdom. Diplomats came to negotiate treaties under the protection of the Void Dragon. Traders came to do business in the safest place in the galaxy. Captain Kim Tae, now officially titled as Dragon Friend by the Galactic Council, walked through the center's main plaza. The title still felt strange to him. He was just a mining engineer who had done what anyone with a heart should do, but the galaxy saw him differently. Here was the human who had shown mercy when others showed fear, the man who had risked everything to free a suffering creature. Children from dozens of species learned his story in their schools. How do you feel about all this attention? Asked reporter Shin Yuki, a human journalist who had come to write about the anniversary of the dragon's freedom. Uncomfortable, mostly, Tae replied honestly. I just helped someone who needed help. I do not understand why that makes me special. Maybe that is exactly why it does make you special, Yuki suggested. They walked toward the center's main building, where Ryung spent most of his time these days. The dragon had become something like a teacher and advisor to the galaxy's leaders. His knowledge of ancient technologies and cosmic forces was invaluable to scientists and governments alike. But more importantly, his presence kept the peace. No species dared start a war when a void dragon might intervene to stop it. The galaxy had seen what Ryung could do to those who threatened his friends. Inside the main hall, they found Ryung in his usual spot, a massive chamber with a ceiling high enough to accommodate his full height. Today he was meeting with a group of young scientists from the Altarian Council. The key to dimensional travel, Ryung was explaining, is not to force your way through space, but to convince space to fold itself around you. Reality is much more cooperative when you ask politely. The scientists scribbled notes frantically, trying to understand concepts that challenged everything they thought they knew about physics. Ryung noticed Tae's arrival and turned his great head toward his friend. Kim Tae, perfect timing. These young researchers have questions about human creativity that I cannot answer. Human creativity? Tae was puzzled. One of the Altarian scientists, her blue skin flushed with excitement, stepped forward. Honored dragon friend, we have been studying the solution you used to break the binding chains. Your approach was completely unlike anything we would have tried. I just used the tools I had, Tae said, still not understanding. But that is exactly the point, another scientist exclaimed. Every other species would have tried to find more advanced tools, better technology, stronger weapons. Only a human would have persisted with simple equipment and determination. Ryung's rumbling laughter filled the chamber. My friend, you still do not realize how remarkable you are. In 3,000 years of imprisonment, hundreds of beings discovered my prison. Scientists, warriors, treasure hunters, mystics. All of them saw the chains and decided they were too strong to break. They were too strong, Tae protested. For them, perhaps, but they were thinking like their species taught them to think. They saw a problem and looked for a bigger solution. You saw someone suffering and refused to give up until the suffering ended. That is a very human way of thinking. The Altarian scientists nodded enthusiastically. We have been studying human behavior patterns for the past year, one of them said. Your species has a unique tendency to keep trying impossible things until they become possible. We call it stubbornness, Tae replied with a smile. We call it miraculous, the scientist responded. After the scientists left, Tae and Ryung walked out to the observation deck that overlooked the valley below. The view never failed to amaze Tae. Ships from across the galaxy landed and took off constantly, bringing visitors to the Peace Center. Do you ever regret it? Tae asked. Choosing to forgive instead of taking revenge? Ryung considered the question seriously. I spent the first few months of freedom wanting to hunt down those who imprisoned me. The anger was considerable, but then I remembered something. What? I remembered how it felt when you refused to abandon me, even when it would have been safer to leave. I remembered what it was like to have someone care about my suffering without wanting anything in return. The dragon's golden eyes looked out over the peaceful valley. Revenge would have felt good for a short time, but building something better feels good forever. As if to prove his point, a group of children from the center's school came running across the plaza below. They were from 5 different species, playing together without any thought of the ancient prejudices that had once divided their peoples. Look at that, Ryung said softly. Children who grow up seeing dragons as protectors instead of monsters. Children who learn that different species can be friends instead of enemies. That is a revenge more complete than any violence could achieve. A communication alert chimed from Tae's personal device. It was Admiral Hana, now promoted to Fleet Admiral and serving as the human liaison to the Galactic Peace Council. Tae, her voice crackled over the speaker. We have a situation developing in the Outer Rim. 3 species are fighting over mining rights and it is getting ugly. The council is asking if Ryung would be willing to mediate. Tae looked at his friend. What do you think? I think it is time for another flying lesson, Ryung replied with what might have been a grin. Over the past year, Ryung had been teaching Tae to travel with him through dimensional space. It was not something humans were naturally equipped for, but their bond made it possible. I still get sick when we do the twisty thing through dimensions, Tae warned. You are getting better at it, Ryung assured him. And besides, seeing a void dragon arrive with his human friend tends to make people more reasonable very quickly. They had done this dozens of times over the past year. Whenever conflicts arose that threatened to turn into wars, Ryung and Tae would appear to mediate. The dragon's power ensured that everyone listened, while Tae's practical approach to problem-solving usually found solutions that worked for everyone. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I had not gone into those caves that day, Tae said as they prepared to leave. But you did go into the caves, Ryung replied, and you chose compassion over fear. That choice changed both of our lives and it changed the galaxy. Do you think other dragons are still out there somewhere? Ryung was quiet for a long moment. I hope so, he said finally. If they are, perhaps they will see what we have built here and decide to trust again. Perhaps they will see that not all younger species are ruled by fear. And if they do not trust, then we will show them the same patience and kindness that you showed me, Ryung replied. We will prove that friendship is stronger than fear, and that understanding is more powerful than force. As the sun set over Viridian Prime, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Tae climbed onto Ryung's back for another journey to prevent another war. It had become their routine, their mission, their purpose. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still prejudices, still those who chose fear over understanding, but it was better than it had been. Much better. And it all started with one simple choice in a dark cave. The choice to help someone who was suffering even when it would have been easier to walk away. Ready? Ryung asked, spreading his massive wings. Ready? Tae replied, settling into the familiar position between the dragon's shoulder blades. Then let us go save the galaxy again, Ryung said with warm amusement in his voice. They rose into the evening sky, human and dragon together, heading toward another crisis that needed their unique combination of power and compassion to solve. Below them, the lights of the Dragon Peace Center twinkled like stars, a symbol of what could be accomplished when different beings chose to trust each other instead of fear each other. The galaxy watched as the unlikely pair disappeared into dimensional space, and many of those watchers smiled. They had learned something important over the past year. Miracles were possible. You just had to be brave enough to show kindness to someone who needed it, even when that someone was very different from yourself. Even when that someone was a dragon. The end.